Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne and I'm a Chinese metaphysics master in Hong Kong. I do have a lot of content on Bazi and business owners or those who are self-employed, but today I'm going to show you how you can evaluate the relationship between your boss and yourself, and maybe even improve that relationship if you are in an employment situation. So whether that's in a small company or whether you are in a corporate environment, maybe you have different bosses above you. It doesn't matter which scenario fits yours. This is specifically for those of you who do not own your own company and are employed and report to someone. All right. So in a Bazi chart, the boss element is generally represented by the direct officer. The abbreviation for direct officer is DO. So in order to check whether or not or what your relationship with your boss is, you first need to plot your Bazi chart. You can go to this link below, or also you can find this link in the notes, in the description to this video, and then you plot your chart and you check whether you have an element that is called DO anywhere in your chart. It doesn't matter where it appears. So for this person here, there is a DO. Yeah, it could also appear somewhere up here, anywhere in the chart. Check whether you have a DO. Yeah, so DO is here for this particular person, and then we also see it here in the hour pillar. So check where you have it. It can appear on top or at the bottom. So that DO is the abbreviation for direct officer, and that is sort of like the boss element. Yeah, you can work as hard as you want, but ultimately you kind of need to have a good relationship with your boss in order to advance any further. No matter how capable you are, you will eventually have to leave the company if your boss really hates you. So when we look at how far you can make it in your company or what you need to improve within your relationship with your boss, we always focus in on the DO, the direct officer. Now, first of all, you need to check whether or not you have it in your chart. So if you have it in your chart, it doesn't matter how many of them you have. You may have 4, 5, 6. It doesn't matter that you have, it doesn't mean that you have 4 or 5 different bosses. It just means you have that element in the chart. If you have it in the chart, then throughout your life, no matter which job you have, you will have a better affinity with your boss than as if it were not present in your chart. It doesn't mean that you always get along perfectly or that you're always totally on the same page, but overall in life, you tend to have nicer bosses or nicer superiors, and you always find a way to get along. Sometimes you don't even need to lift a finger to make your boss like you. There's just an affinity there. And so it's important to check, first of all, whether or not you have that direct officer element in your chart. Now, if it's not there, it doesn't mean that you don't get along with your boss at all, but it just takes much more effort to build a bond with your boss or to build a good relationship with your boss. If you don't have the direct officer anywhere in your chart, then you often don't even want to have an affinity with your boss or build a bond with your boss because maybe you think they're stupid. That happens. And, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Sometimes you do know more than your boss, but the tendency is just more towards, I don't even want to try too hard. Because maybe, as I said, maybe you think you're smarter than your boss, or you just, for whatever reason, you don't have that much respect for your boss. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that's the end of your career. It's just you don't have this very, very close relationship with your boss. That's all. Now, not having the direct officer element in your chart is not the end of the world. Yeah. As I mentioned, it just means that there's not much affinity. But what is much, much worse than not having the direct officer in the chart is if your hurting officer, that's also an element which is abbreviated with HO. So here we have this. What's much worse than not having the direct officer in your chart is having the hurting officer at a very, very high percentage, or being very, very strong in your chart. If it's very strong, then you are so opinionated that you constantly piss off your boss, and you're bound to burn bridges that way. Yeah. So it's one thing not to have a good affinity with your boss. It's a completely different thing if you're constantly arguing with your boss, if you're constantly pissing him off. And so that is much, much worse, because that ultimately will mean that you may have to leave the company, or that you're just not going to get promoted that way. So that is much worse. Now, how do we see whether the hurting officer, the HO element, is overly strong? So again, once you have plotted this chart, you then scroll down all the way to the bottom. And then on the right-hand side, you will see this particular diagram. And here you will check for the hurting officer. Yeah, here we go. Hurting officer. Now, in this particular case, it's right at the top and it's at 88%. In your case, it may be a different percentage. It may be on third place or fifth place, doesn't matter. Just check what the percentage is. Usually, if this hurting officer element is 70% or higher, then you definitely have a lot of issues with your boss. They may be good-natured arguments, but you constantly argue because you have a different opinion and you're just not on the same page very often, right? So that may throw some obstacles in your way of advancing in your career. So you may want to tone it down a little bit and not pick every single fight that is out there. If the hurting officer and the direct officer, which is your boss, if they are more or less at the same percentage, let's say 5% difference, then it's pretty balanced. Yeah, then you don't have to worry so much. Even if the hurting officer is at 70, let's say it's 70 and the direct officer is 65, it's pretty balanced. But if there's such a big gap, as you can see here, and the hurting officers clearly above 70%, as in this case here, then you may run into problems. Now, importantly, only look at the natal chart here. The annual distribution is just for this year, and this changes every year, yeah? So it's not important. We're looking only at this natal percentage. Now, if you see that you have an extremely high hurting officer percentage, like this person here, extremely high, they definitely do not see eye to eye with their boss, then what do? You kind of have to manage your boss in such a way that you still kind of get along. You get your way and your boss gets his or her way, yeah? Now, in order to manage your boss, you kind of need to know a little bit more about how your boss wants you to operate, not just in terms of what kind of tasks you need to perform, but how does your boss want to be treated. Now, in order to see this, you need to plot your boss's Bazi chart. You don't need to know your boss's time of birth. That's not important. But the date of birth, I'm sure you can find that out somehow when your boss is born, and then you plot his or her chart. And that will then tell you how you could best manage him or her, especially if your hurting officer is at 70% or higher. All right, so plot your boss's chart. And again, you use the same link that I've given earlier. And again, it's also in the description to this video. Use the same link, plot your boss's chart. Doesn't matter whether you know the time of birth, you probably won't, but the date of birth is something that you can find out. And then once you've plotted his or her chart, you again scroll all the way down, and on the left-hand side, you will see this diagram, which is called the 5 structures. Yeah, it's called 5 structures. And again, we are only concerned here with the natal diagram, which is the beige one, this one here, right? This one. Don't worry about the purple one. That's not important at all. We're only looking at the natal diagram. So this particular one can show you how your boss wants to be treated in general, what they pay attention to, and how you need to behave as an employee to make your life a little bit easier and make sure that you actually perform in such a way that your boss starts to like you, even though you may still have a few arguments here and there. Now, you need to check which one of those dots is at the highest percentage. Here in this case, it's pretty clear the output element is at the highest. We're not so concerned with the element itself. Yeah, don't worry about this. What we focus on is whether it's the wealth, influence, resource, companion, or output, whether that's the highest percentage. Here in this case, as you can see, the output element is at 100%. So this is what your boss pays most attention to. Now, it is possible that you have a chart where two elements are equally as high. So maybe two elements are at 80% and all the others range between 20 and 40%, for example. That's possible. So then it's two things that you need to pay attention to. All right. So check which one is at the highest, and that will then tell you what you need to do to make your boss like you. So if it's the wealth element that is at the highest percentage, then your boss is someone who is extremely pragmatic, very practical, very goal-oriented. They are interested in results. They don't care about the process. They really don't care whether how you achieve the end goal. They may not even care whether you're really at the office from 9 to 5, as long as you achieve your goals within a particular deadline and as perfect as possible. They just want to know whether or not you hit the target, whether you hit the sales target or not, have you achieved your goals or not. Don't bother too much with the process. It's extremely important that you fulfill all the goals and tasks that your boss has set you. How is not important. And ideally, over deliver. Yeah, they will really, really appreciate that. Now, if the influence element is the highest element, then your boss is someone who will really respect you if you can bring order to chaos. Yeah, bring structure and organization to the company or to your department or to a process. So if there's something within your department or within your SOPs that can be simplified, can be made more efficient, then do that. Suggest it to your boss and actually implement it. They will really respect you for that because they want things to be efficient. They want things to be orderly, structured, a clear operation procedure. They want to be efficient and implement a system. And if you can help them with that, then you will gain their respect. If it's the resource element that is the strongest, then your boss tends to like people who take decisions based on facts, figures, and data, not just gut feeling. Yeah, a lot of people, they just, oh, I feel this would be the best solution. But no, every decision you take, you need to actually underline it with facts, figures, statistics, data. If you can line that up for your boss and explain it, they will appreciate that. Do not talk to your boss based on gut feeling. Yeah. Show them the numbers. They want to see the numbers. They want decisions to be backed by research, knowledge, and information. Charts, diagrams, whatever. Take out your whiteboard, show them a chart, whatever you need to do. The moment you can back up every single decision with facts and figures, that's when they start to appreciate you. Now, if a companion element is the strongest element in your boss's chart, then they are someone who likes camaraderie by talking about hobbies or something outside of just work. Doesn't mean that they want to be your best friend, but they also want to know a little bit more about you as a person, not just you as an employee. Yeah, maybe family. They appreciate it if you remember their birthday. Maybe you remember something about their kids going to school, where they go to school, whatever. Like, it's really important for them to see that you can relate to each other also on a level that's outside of work. Um, Talk about things that do not relate to work only, and connect on that level. Yeah, maybe take up the same hobby as your boss, if you can, if it's not too expensive, so you have something in common. Just sort of find something that you both have in common and start talking about it. Or, maybe if you can arrange it, take them out on a lunch, and just chat, yeah, about life, or take them out to a happy hour after work. Connect over fun activities, not meaning that you don't have to do your work, right? But they need to see that you're a human being, not just a robot at work. And then lastly, in this, like in this case here, when the output element is the strongest element, then your boss likes to just be complimented and being praised. Yeah, make your boss feel good, flatter them, ensure that they can take the praise for something even if they haven't quite done it. So kind of make sure that you let them shine. Prepare a presentation for them, for example. That's really, really good. That makes them look good in front of clients, in front of stakeholders. And so that will make them feel good. Yeah. So make sure that you can somehow support their need to shine in front of others, even if that may mean that you have to maybe take a step back and cannot claim every win for yourself. But ultimately, this will benefit you because your boss will start to like you and really appreciate you. If you are the person who makes them look good, they will not want to be without you. Yeah, they're not going to fire you because you make them feel good, you make them look good in front of others. All right. So this is how you can manage your boss. This is how you can evaluate your relationship with your boss just based on your Bazi chart and his or her Bazi chart as well. I hope this helps all those of you who have a boss. You know, you may also have a boss at home. Yeah. Sometimes, you need to manage your husband, and even though you don't want to think of him as a boss, maybe you can also use this method to manage expectations, or vice versa. Yeah, maybe your wife is the one with the pants on, then you can also use this method as well. So in any scenario where you kind of have to report to someone, whether that be in a personal context or whether that's in a corporate or a company context, then this will work. All right, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or just contact me directly. My email address is in the description box to this video. And I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, if you shared it with all those who are employed and struggling with their bosses, and if you could subscribe to my channel. See you soon.